So the first time I tried doing this intro, I made note that I have two of the same Jurassic Park shirts. One of them in my laundry basket, the other one I'm looking at in my closet right now, which is really weird. But if I'm being honest, it's pretty weird. But welcome. You've seen the thumbnail. You've seen the title. I don't have any reason to remind you what this video is. But I will tell you, this video was requested by me from someone, and I'm gonna be fun fact, I'm reading the script right now, right? And I ended the last recording because I thought I messed up, but now that I'm rereading that paragraph, I realized I didn't mess up. Anyway, we're going over what if Ben showed up in Scarlet Devil Mansion, Touhou 6, during the events. Mostly on how the DNA would work with the Omnitrix, but at the end we'll also be doing a little story, a small one, a little tiny one. But it's mostly just how the Omnitrix would react to every species that is introduced in Touhou 6. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, classic SNDVZX intro. So, first things first, let's go over our three categories for this video, or well, the transformation specifically, I should say. The first being, could Ben turn into that species? It's pretty self-explanatory. Some species, or some characters, Ben cannot turn into, for, various reasons. The second category, the middle little Omnitrix symbol there, is, would Ben turn into this species? And finally, that third category, what abilities would he have if he did turn into that transformation? To continue on to these 3 points, I need to mention a few more things. The first being, if Ben is using the Ultimatrix or Omnitrix. This is actually really important to note before doing the video. If Ben is using the Ultimatrix, then things get really confusing, because the Ultimatrix makes a genetic copy of that transformation, rather than the species apex. This is important because gender is a part of genetics, so that kind of conflicts with the failsafe system. But with that in mind, maybe the Echo alien harem theory isn't out of mind. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Each Echo can change their gender and turn into a different alien. Anyway, let's not have that conversation. For the sake of the fact of the Ultimatrix Echo alien harem theory, that's very disturbing to think about, we are going to be using the completed Omnitrix. This means that Ben will get the apex species of whoever he's scanning. This is also really complicated because yokai and people in Touhou in general live a really long time. And so, for the sake of convenience, because we don't know the maximum lifespan of, all the species in Gens Tokyo, we're going to be ignoring the age part. So, even though, we know 10-year-old Ben is 10 years old, we wouldn't know how old that would be in, say, Romelia Scarlet years. So that's important to take note of. But it's okay, because the only time this really comes up is with the Scarlet sisters, at least in this video. So, if you know Touhou, you know why age is irrelevant when it comes to the Scarlet sisters. We also need a baseline for would Ben turn into that species. The thing about Ben 10 is that if you really think about it, Ben doesn't have a reason to turn into anything besides Alien X. And even if you ignore Alien X, so many aliens have so many niches that Ben doesn't really have a reason to pick a specific alien. So, for example, let's say that Ben needs to burn down a building, right? Ben has 3 aliens, maybe 4, that can do that. through various ways, or he can just turn into something with muscle and bust it down. Am I right? So, you know, for that reason, we're going to be comparing these aliens to his OG playlists from the original series. I think this is the best way to acknowledge if he would or would not use that species. It does get a little unfair when you take something like Hirno and the fact he doesn't have any ice aliens until Alien Force. But, yeah. Final thing we need to go over before talking about the specific characters and the Omnitrix is that we will be going into magic, not right now, but later in the video. And we'll do that really soon. Hirno the Ice Fairy. The first person we're going over is Hirno, in which originally I made a joke about how she might be the only person more of a baka than Neptune. However, I promised Neptune I would stop bullying her, so she wouldn't complain about it. So, instead, we'll say she's the only person that is nearly as much as a baka. There we go. See, I'm not calling her stupid, I'm calling her nearly stupid. Because I'm a nice individual, I'm a good friend. Anyway, as I said, Hirno is an ice fairy. Fairies are typically born from nature, and in fact are immortal as long as that nature exists. So, in the example of an ice fairy, as long as winter, snow, and ice exist in the world, Ben can transform into Hirno and will regenerate. The three fairies of light say to Hirno, for your season, when spring arrives, you would become out of season. So, Ben could transform into this transformation at any time, but he'd probably only want to do it during winter, as that's when his powers would be at his greatest. Ice fairies have DNA and are different enough from humans to be used despite their similar appearance. This is going to be shared with many characters in Touhou. However, an often argument used for transformations not being usable in the Omnitrix is magic. However, Hirno's power comes from nature, the nature she's born, same with other, fairies, and not magic specifically. However, the only time this came up in canon was the Anodites, which Ben can transform into only because Anodites don't have DNA. It has nothing to do with magic. In fact, this is supported by Ultimate Ben 10,000, who can use magic. And in case you didn't notice, Ultimate Ben 10,000 is a transformation. So, yes, Ben can transform into species that use magic. It's just the prototype Omnitrix doesn't like being bolted dead on by Gwen's attacks. To continue onward into our second point, because we're now just getting to our second little stage here, Ben would likely use his transformation, comparing it to the OG-10, however, only very sparingly. While comparing it to the OG-10, it has ice-powered niche. As I just mentioned, Ben does not have any ice aliens till Alien Force onward. However, fairies are extremely weak. Hirno is considered to be unnaturally strong for a fairy, so she's actually a really good benchmark for Ben's hypothetical strength as a fairy, or an ice fairy specifically. And unfortunately, she's only considered to be a weak yokai, despite being a strong fairy. It should be considered, though, it's possible the Omnitrix might use this transformation as a failsafe, which might be its most powerful ability. Similar to Chromosome and Diamond Head, the Omnitrix could possibly turn him into an ice fairy, and he would eventually regenerate. His DNA would be stored in the Omnitrix as the human default, so even if the human DNA can't not be regenerated, it can be reformatted in the Omnitrix. Finally, what abilities would Ben have? He would have ice powers, flight, regeneration, but Ben's physical strength would likely be less than a human's. However, since fairies don't seem to age, it's also possible that there's another failsafe that Ben could just stay as a fairy after he extends the human life cycle. Of course, this could be argued with other aliens, but it's just something I thought I would point out in case someone was thinking about it. It's not confirmed, but it's possible, since the Omnitrix does have a species lock function. it should also be mentioned, despite what we're saying about Kyorno, Ben's power is also arguable because of the whole age thing. Since we don't know how old, Fairy lives in comparison to a human, and this is the main reason we're ignoring age. I thought I would bring it up one last time before moving on. Man, my sinuses are being a pain in the butt. Jesus Christ. Hong Mei Ling. I was actually really excited for Busty, or at least to the fans, key using martial artist yokai. And it's essentially disappointing what I have to say. This part of the video is going to be extremely short. We don't know what kind of yokai Hong Mei Ling is. The only thing we know is that she is, in fact, as a yokai, considered very weak. Theoretically, Ben could turn into her, as she isn't human, but since we don't know more than, and we don't know anything about her besides her looks, that she looks similar to a human, we're going to say no just because we don't know anything about her. There's also that if Ben could hypothetically turn into Mei Ling, we don't even know what abilities he would have. It all depends on if Mei Ling's species can use Ki, if he would even use Mei Ling. Which, by the way, Ki is in Touhou is basically Homon being used as Dragon Ball Z powers. Thought I'd just point that out there. If Ben can use Ki as a natural species, then yeah, Ben would probably use the Mei Ling transformation. However, if he could not, then he is very unlikely to use Mei Ling, as she would be left as nothing more than a muscle transformation, and we wouldn't even know how physically strong she is. And he already has 4 arms, so actually all of his aliens have super strength except for like Accelerate, Ghost Freak, and Stinkfly, I think. So yeah, no reason to use Mei Ling at all if she doesn't have her key abilities. It's really sad when you think about it. Okay, take 2. I feel like saying this should be interesting is kind of irrelevant if you pressed on the video. You already are interested in the video, especially if you're this far in. Okay, let's do this. Patchouli Knowledge is a magician, or whichever one you prefer saying, which is its own species in Touhou. They are considered yokai, and considering Patchouli is 100 years old and looks that young, not to mention has an amazing butt, goddamn Lost World, calm down, they are considered to be their own species. Since, just as a note here, since Marisa and Alice Margatroyd are also magicians / witches, I'm going to say magicians because I prefer it, we won't be covering them in the future, even if I do a sequel to this video, so just letting you know. A magician is similar to humans, as in they do not have any set amount of abilities outside of a universal common ground, that being having magic. As stated previously, this is irrelevant if Ben can or cannot transform, as Ben can access magic. Either way, Patchouli, or the magician species, naturally have magic. Patchouli was born a witch / magician. However, humans are capable of becoming a magician / witch species. It is unknown how this is done, but since there is little human DNA, or there is a little human DNA in all of Ben's forms anyways, then this should also be fine. Not to mention, Nanomech is a hybrid, so Ben transforming into a witch shouldn't be a problem. I just said I'd call him a magician, but I called him a witch anyways. What am I doing? However, if you believe that since humans can turn to magicians, this would cause problems with the Omnitrix, you're free to believe that, and now you know. Whether magicians turning to Ben or turning humans... 3, 2, 1. Whether magicians turning into humans would prevent Ben from transforming or not, Ben would likely still use this form, not while he's a kid, but as an adult. And the reason this is because of the way magicians work, which we will go into in just one moment. In my research of doing magicians, I have realized that magicians have limitless potential, at least to our knowledge. All three magicians in Touhou, Alice, Patchouli, and Marissa, have different forms of magic, not to mention different power levels. However, the problem is that magicians don't instinctively know how to use every kind of magic. This would mean that, while Ben knows how to tap into his magic instinctually, he wouldn't know how to use it properly without reading about it. It should be taken into consideration that magicians look identical and yet live longer. Similar to the fairy, using various failsafes, Ben could make his magician form his base form, whilst using his Omnitrix to access other alien transformations. It should also be noted that Ben would be stronger than an average human. However, if it was the Ultimatrix, Ben would actually get weaker due to Patchouli's asthma, the fact she's anemic, and anesmic? That's a word, I'll put it on screen, maybe. And that she has vitamin A deficiency. More reasons that she needs, that Ben needs the Omnitrix for this to work. And earlier, as I was saying about, Ben 10,000 would use it, but not Ben Kid, I feel like young Ben wouldn't have the patience to learn all the different ways to use a magician. But with Ben 10,000 understanding the limitless potential of magicians, he would probably learn how to use it pretty well. At least, that's my opinion. That's just a theory. A Ben 10 theory. Sakuya Izuyoi, Ben cannot turn into, because Sakuya Izuyoi is a human. Moving on. Finally, for the main event, and the one I was excited about, but also kind of surprised after doing my research and compiling this together. After the last disappointing entry with Sakuya Izuyoi, this one is extremely interesting. Romelia Scarlet is a vampire, which grants her a wide variety of abilities. It should be pretty obvious that Ben could turn into the species. Ben would also likely use this form quite well, as it is by far his most powerful form in his arsenal, at least only looking at the complete Omnitrix. And even if we were looking at all of Ben's aliens in the classic series, this would be in his top 10, if not top 5 most powerful transformations. Fight me. Well, boy, let's just go over this transformation, and you'll understand why this transformation is so overpowered for those who don't know Touhou, or maybe don't know Touhou lore very well. We'll first have to go over the stats. It is using Romelia Scarlet as a base here, since this is her section. Romelia Scarlet is described as faster than the eye can follow and strong enough to crush boulders. She's also been able to fly around the moon, at least the fantastic version, and come back in a relatively short amount of time. While this definitely isn't light speed, it's not beating Accelerate or Fast Track in a race, this is much faster than your average, transformation in the Omnitrix. Take a moment to apologize about my breathing in my throat. For some reason, my throat is being really weird. I think I might be getting sick. Moving on though, past her immense strength and speed, there's also her vampire abilities. She can regenerate in one night from just a head. She's able to summon an army of demons with a shout, and she can turn into a swarm of bats and or mist with manipulation of her shape or shape-shifting. She can also fly with her wings. Then there's the fact she can manipulate fate. We're not exactly sure how this works, but even a simple version of this is extremely powerful. If it's as powerful as it sounds, and she just doesn't use its full power because of the spell card system, then this is really broken and, goes to show why this transformation is so powerful. But there's even more reason, the actual reason I think this transformation is so strong, and that's because of Flander Scarlet. You see, Flander is the same species as Romelia. They're the same, they're sisters. No wonder they'd be the same species. But her ability is completely different. Flanders' ability is to destroy absolutely anything. Apparently to Flander, everything has an eye. By moving it and destroying it, she can destroy an object without touching it. So you can be standing on the other side of the planet, and she can blow you up. Hypothetically, if she's trained enough. She can also apparently sense malice, but I don't know how this works. And apparently Flanders weak to water. I guess that's a pretty bad weakness for someone who lives on Earth, but still, it's the fact she can destroy anything and manipulate fate. I think she could just blow up the clouds, and you know it wouldn't really be a problem, right? But yeah. So I say again, Vermilion Scarlet, top 10, if not top 5 transformations in Ben's Omnitrix. You know, argue with me down below what you think of that. You know, what placement would you place Vermilion Scarlet in the Omnitrix? And with that, the video is over. I hope that my breathing, my stuffy nose and mouth didn't deter you. You know, apparently, you know, it obviously didn't if you finished the video. I wouldn't mind doing a part 2 for this. There are other projects that I need to finish, but you know, I'm uploading like quite often over in SMTPX Games. I'm not really interested in what ifs anymore. Though I'm thinking I'm going to be doing more Touhou content here pretty soon. I've been really wanting to get into Touhou, or more into Touhou, I should say. So thank you for watching. If this video gets 5 likes, I will discuss Ben in the part 7, or not part 7, the 7th game of Touhou, which name I actually can't remember right now. I almost said can't Remelia. I can't Remelia the game right now. Oh, that sounds so stupid.